Hey everyone, Hospice Nurse Julie here. I'm going to do a quick 8 to 10 minute video about my most frequently asked questions. So for those of you who are new here, I'm a hospice nurse and a death and dying educator. I try to educate all things death and dying to help decrease our fear in death. I find that the more we talk about it, the less we fear it, the better we live, and the more peaceful we die. So let's get to it. The number one most frequently asked question I think I get asked is, was my loved one in pain? So someone will write into me, they'll give me the scenario. They'll say, does that sound like suffering to you? Were they in pain? Please tell me, right? And it's a little hard to know if I wasn't there, obviously. But what I can tell you is, for the most part, most people do not know what it looks like to be what we call actively dying. Someone's unconscious, they'll have changes in breathing, their skin will change, the skin color changes, their temperature will change, their eyes will be open, their mouth will be open, they'll be having gurgling noises. Especially the changes in breathing can really freak people out, and they often think their loved one is suffering or having pain. So my long and short answer is no, they were likely not suffering and in pain. Of course, I can't be there. I don't want to not validate your experience and your feelings. If symptoms weren't controlled, then they could have been. But in general, if they looked like they were sleeping, but maybe just looked a little different than what they normally look like, they were likely not in pain. Also, the changes in breathing that you see in someone dying do not cause them pain or harm. How do we know that? Because we have scales and ways to look to see if someone is experiencing pain or discomfort, even if they can't tell us. And usually if someone can't breathe or feels like they can't breathe, you will see it physically in their body, what they're doing, how they're moving. They'll be restless. They will not just be laying there looking like they're sleeping, but just breathing differently. So know that about the end of life. So in general, if your loved one was on hospice or in the hospital and they died there, they were likely, their symptoms were likely controlled well. So I hope that helps. So the next one is, I'm trying to read my writing that I can't read now. Oh, was my loved one starving? Yes, this is another thing. So also, many people are either at the end of life are either not hungry or they're unconscious and they're not eating, and we're not feeding them or giving them any kind of hydration or IV hydration. Our bodies are miraculous things, and they have built-in mechanisms to help us do all types of things: fight infections, fight diseases, keep us healthy, help us survive birth, and they help us die. And the body knows when it's dying, and the body shuts down mechanisms in its own body to help us die. So at the end of life, when someone's dying, the mechanism for hunger shuts down, the mechanism for digestion shuts down, all these things shut down so the body doesn't feel hungry or thirsty. Also, at the end of life, the body cannot handle intravascular fluids, IV fluids. So the less fluid we give the person, the more peaceful they will die. Because even if we tried to pump them full of food and fluid through tubes, the body would not know what to do with it, and it would overload that body and actually make the death less peaceful. So no, your loved one was not starving. And it's actually better. The body knows what it's doing. You just listen to the body, and the body will take care of itself during that process. The next one is, could they hear me? Could my loved one hear me who was unconscious when I was talking to them? So we can't say for sure, but we almost can say for sure. What we can tell you is the hearing sensor, the part of the brain that conducts hearing and works on the hearing sensor of your body, shuts down the last. Like, that's the last sense to shut down. So we do think people can hear us. There has been EEGs done on dying brains, and it shows that the hearing part of the brain shuts down was the last thing to shut down. And also people who have been unconscious or in medically induced comas have come back and said that they could hear people. So we do think, we're not, it can't be, we can't say for sure, we can't say how much they are actually fully comprehending, but we do think people can hear us. Now, if they've already had hearing issues, if they were deaf or had lost a lot of their hearing, they probably could not hear unless, if you had to scream in their ear for them to hear you in life, during the death and dying process, that would be the same. So you'd have to continue to talk loud to them if that's what they normally are used to. Okay, and last but not least, did I do enough? I get so many messages from people basically wanting validation from me. Did I do enough? Did I do enough to take care of them? I didn't make it to, I was there for so long before they died. Then I left the room to go eat and they died. Why did they die when I wasn't there? Things like that. So in general, yes, there's so much I could say about this. I never take consultations because people will only want, people would pay me money to basically tell them that they did enough. And I don't think that would be fair of me because all I'm doing is basically profiting off someone else's grief. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this is that it's very normal. If you're sitting here listening to this and you're like, yeah, that's me. Did I do enough? It's very normal to be asking yourself that question. And for someone like me to profit off of that is like totally unethical, I think. Because that is just your grief talking. And yes, I can sit here as a healthcare worker without even knowing you, without even being there, and know that, yes, you did enough. I already know that. I can already tell you that. I can reassure you that, yes, you did enough. But also know that it doesn't matter what I say, because what you're feeling is likely just part of the grieving process. It's so normal to have those emotions, have those feelings, have those thoughts. And you kind of just got to go through it. You got to go through it. So I encourage you, instead of reaching out to people like me, you're more than happy to, and asking, did I do enough? Did I do enough? Just know that what you're feeling is normal and the questions you're asking yourself is all normal. And it's likely all part of the grief process. And there are other people like you. You are not alone. I always encourage people to grieve in community. People really hate, in America specifically, we're very individualistic. People really hate group anything, especially when it comes to therapy, group therapy. And I'm in a 12-step program that's very communal, and I'm all about it, and I still resist that. But I encourage people who are grieving to find a grief group, find people who are grieving like you, because I really feel like we get a lot of support from people that we know understand what we're feeling and understand what we're going through. So yes, you did enough. And everything you're feeling about not doing enough is a really normal part of grief. And it's important to talk to people about it. Find other people like you and know that you're not alone. And that's my 8 minutes. Those are some of my frequently asked questions. I'll do this some other time again. So in the comments, if you have other questions, type in the questions in the comments and I'll take the most frequently asked ones and do another video like this. Okay, love you guys. Thanks.